So now we're going to focus a little bit more about telling the family and how it happened and how it made you feel and how the reaction made you feel.
Okay, so I think I don't remember telling you. I think, was it on the phone?
It was in person in college in Arizona. And it was after Meredith had told me that you guys were going to gay clubs, frequenting them. But she didn't say you were gay. She just mentioned you were going. And then I think a friend of mine, Stacy Chose It, also on Facebook, told me that she had heard from somebody else that lived over at the apartment complex Rio that you were hanging out with a gay guy. And
we were just hanging out.
You were just hanging out. And so when you told me, I wasn't surprised at all. But it was very quick, both those, it was within a couple of months.
Okay.
So I do remember you telling me when I lived at 1200 River.
I lost my virginity to him.
Great. I'm not going to ask the details. I know we're all relieved to hear that.
Night. Yeah. All right, so I guess that was my coming out to you. It's so nerve-wracking and scary that I don't even recall how it happened or when it happened, but I do recall when I came home for Papa, our father's funeral. And I come home, and it was an odd time because everybody that was, people gathered around, when they come over to your house when someone passes away, and all the aunts somehow had found out about my gayness, and cousins all knew because I told some of them, and it seemed like everybody was asking me to please come out to my parents because they were the only ones that didn't know, and they should know because, well, it was becoming too hard to keep it a secret from them. So, this bed right here is where I was sitting right here. My dad was sitting right where you are, kind of. And I said, Dad, I know that your father has just passed away. I'm sorry that I have to talk to you about this now, but it's come to a point where I need to tell you that something about my sexuality. I was like, do you know what I'm talking about? He's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And I said, well, it's that I'm gay. And he was tearing, and I don't know if it was tearing because of the loss of his father, but I want to think that it was actually because of the shock of me actually coming out to him. And I remember it very distinctly, not because of his tears so much, but because he said, well, he's like, no matter what, I love you. And as many times as our parents have told us as we've grown up that they love us, that was the first time that I actually knew and believed that it was true, because that was my deepest, darkest secret. And that was, I guess, the biggest question that I had was, would my parents still be able to love me if I were to tell them that I was gay? And then I threw a curveball at him. I was just like, I can't come out to Mom. There's no way. It's like, that's what you gotta do. You gotta tell Mom. And then I started directing, and I was like, all right, here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna you're gonna go to Mom, you're gonna tell her what happened, and we're gonna meet tomorrow morning and have a discussion about this, because I don't want to see her cry. And he said, okay. And I think that's when he went back to the bedroom, and then you came in here.
And we took you out in that.
And it was with Scott and with Adam. And Adam had a mystery van. It was a big van that some people used to smoke weed in.
I think there was a lot that night.
Yeah. So that's what happened. I think we
went driving.
went driving, and then it was just kind of like this relief for everyone because I finally had come out to my parents. They no longer had the burden of hiding it, and it was just the beginning of a whole new phase of my life. Because the next morning, of course, I had the company meeting with mom and dad in the kitchen, where it was clear that they had lost a lot of sleep the night before, but had pulled together and were on their listening mode. They were as good as they could be with the situation, where maybe they had a clue prior to that I might be gay, but it was now a reality, and they basically told me they loved me and asked what if I was sure, and that's why I skipped over the whole I'm bisexual part with them. Everyone else I had gone through the whole I'm bisexual, and it just kept curving and curving, and finally I was gay. But for them, I had to be very stern with my decision because I didn't want to leave any room for confusion. And so what I told them is that I volunteer to go to a therapist because I know that that's what they were going to recommend. But if I am going to go to a therapist, it's not so I can change who I am. It's so I can learn to live with being a gay man and having parents that don't understand, or having parents that need to be educated on how to live with a gay son. And so I made it very clear that there was no healing homosexuality thing that was going to go on. There's no chance in me changing. I love my beautiful girlfriends, and they asked about them. They're like, "What about Bren? We love Bren." And I was just like, "I love Bren too. I just, it's not that way." So it was not a fun conversation by any means, and it was. I guess that it kind of ended, with sobs and hugs, and where do you go from there? I came out to my parents, and then it's not like I wanted to share every deepest, darkest secret with them after. I didn't want to talk about my sexual encounters prior to my boyfriend.
Not yet, at least.
Well, yeah, definitely not yet. I mean, the thing about coming out is that before you come out, everything it's hidden from everyone. So most of my sexual encounters before that was not something I would want to share with anyone.
And how did they cope with it during the whole first year?
I think that's more of a better question for you to answer, as you did in your interview that I did with you. How did they cope with me personally? They would ask me about, so how was your friend? And I would feel uncomfortable telling them about what was going on with me. Well, at first, I was able to tell them how things were going. And then I noticed a distance whenever I would bring up the subject of me and my mate. And it would just we'd just be able to graze the surface of the topic. And then we would
get distracted by the fact that you're about out of time on this one.
Yes, I'm distracted.
We'll come back to that.